Hi everyone, I'm just sitting outside while Vincent sleeps in my backyard. He's sleeping upstairs. I'm just sitting on the back porch. It's really hot here, so I just wanted to spend a little bit of time outside, and someone had sent me a message this morning asking about how do you discover time when you're doing a reading for yourself or someone else and they're asking a question. And I thought more than one person has asked me this question. I get asked this a lot, actually. And so I thought that I would, talk about that a little bit right now. And I don't need a deck of cards to really be clear about this, because there's a very simple explanation to how I work with that type of energy. And I want to start by saying that I don't do readings and I don't use tarot for strictly straight up fortune telling. And so divining timelines for people isn't a focus for me, and it isn't why I would want someone to have a reading with me. However, it does come up a lot. And so it's a call that I'll make where I'll see how I feel, if it feels right for me to address that in a reading. And for the most part, when I'm taking a look at a timeline for somebody who has a question, I'm really not using the cards to discover that timeline. So that's why I don't need a deck of cards to talk about this with you. I think there are certain cards that are good signs for people as far as timelines go, that we would kind of look at as textbook good signs. And there are many books that have been written on how to use the cards to discern timelines. So what I would say is, if you are really interested in honing this aspect of tarot craft or card craft, however you want to look at it — I like saying tarot craft, makes me feel happy. But anyhow, if you're really interested in that being your main focus, then I would encourage you to read those books and see what feels right. But there's no wrong or right way to divine a timeline for someone. It has to be something you develop yourself. So the first thing that I would say is you've got to know your deck very well. So it needs to be a deck that you work with a lot, that you feel very comfortable with, and that you read very easily. That being said, it also needs to be your own method for divining the timeline. So it is subjective. It is based on your own individual way of working with the cards, and of getting comfortable with the energy, and of being comfortable with your psychic abilities. And so why I don't need a deck of cards is because it's a completely personal way that you go about creating that timeline and deciding how you're going to divine that. But it's also because I primarily use my psychic abilities, my intuition in a reading, to determine that for someone. So if someone comes to me and says, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to buy this house, and I want to know if I'm going to be able to move in within 6 months, right? And I feel like it's appropriate. I check in and I feel like, okay, I can take a look at this for them. I always preface it with nothing's set in stone, and the moment you walk out of this reading, the energy can and probably will completely change. So it's important that you not attach anything to this aspect of the reading. And once I feel that they are comfortable and they have that awareness themselves, then I will do a spread. But I'm not looking at certain cards to tell me what the timeline is, although I will find that if the Sun shows up, if the Fool shows up, if certain other cards show up, then I will take that as, either a good energy for them to be moving in with 6 months, within that 6 months, or not. But that's not what I'm primarily focused on, the cards that show up. When I'm looking at a timeline, I'm using my psychic abilities. So I'll sit there, talk about the cards with them a little bit, and then something will just pop into my head. I don't know how else to describe it for you. And the more that I work with the cards, the easier it gets for me to trust my intuition that shows up for these types of questions. So I really primarily am using my psychic abilities when I'm doing this in a reading, my intuition, however you choose to look at that. It's not really about what cards show up, although they will have something to do with it. Like I said, they do factor in, but it's my own associations with those cards. So if someone's asking about a vacation or a journey, Six of Swords shows up, that's going to have its own unique meaning. To me, it might mean that yes, they are going to take a journey, but it's going to have more spiritual meaning than they had intended it to. Things might occur before the journey happens that cause them to make some major life changes. Everything has to do with my own association with my deck and my intuitive psychic abilities that go along with the reading. And what I'm really focusing on when I'm doing a reading is what needs to come forth for this person to know that's the best thing for them to know at this time, that's the most healing for them. What are the root issues that we want to take a look at to determine how the energy can either shift, grow, lessen, deepen for them to have the life experience that they want to have. So that's always my focus when I'm doing any reading for anyone. And I don't like to get carried away with this timeline thing, because you are the creator of your own reality, and by your focus, by your intention and attention on what you're experiencing, you create what you want to have in your life. And you can shift it. So there's nothing set in stone about timelines. There's nothing set in stone about experiences. And I would much rather encourage my clients to be more proactive. But that being said, there are occasions when I will use timelines for people. And I always use my psychic hits to determine the timeline. It's not really the cards. So if you came to me and said, I want to know when I can resolve this difficult relationship, will we have things resolved within a year? I will sit there, if it feels right for me to, I'll sit there and I'll tap into the energy that the client has, the energy around the client, and I'll sit with that and see what feels right, and it will happen in a matter of seconds. And if I'm supposed to say something to them, I will have a timeline. So I might hear 7 or 8 months, you'll be at a better understanding with each other about this issue. And then I'm always about goals, action steps, and focus of thought that can help create that reality for them in the timeline that's shown up on my psychic meter, to kind of use that in my own personal, phraseology, I guess. It really is about psychic hit for me when I'm doing a timeline. And I don't do them for everyone, and I will always check in first with my own inner knowing and the guides that I work with, the energies that I work with, and see if it actually should be something that we look into together. It's very important to realize, if you're going to be a reader, if you want to read for other people, if you feel that you're a healer and that card work is part of your healing work, it's so important to be aware and have an understanding of and spend time with the decks that you're going to use, and spend time getting comfortable with your own intuition and the energies that you work with. And this means taking time to communicate with these energies and taking time to work with your cards daily. If you want to be a proficient reader and you want to use cards to read for other people, it does require a level of commitment with the cards. If you want to be using your intuition, your psychic abilities, and not using a guidebook, and not needing to read something every time you read for people, you have to start reading for others, and you also have to hone your craft. It's just like we look at anything else. If you want to be a really great baker, then you practice making the cookies that you want to make, the cakes that you want to make, the whatever you want to make. You spend time honing your craft with that so that you have the best recipes and that you can make that whatever off the top of your head that you want to make. That recipe's in your mind, and you've got a cellular memory for that recipe, and you can make it anywhere you go because you have honed your craft. And so for me, card work is really about honing my craft. And then I can let go of the meanings and just allow the intuition to take hold, to take center stage in the readings, and to really be free to listen to that and not be stuck on what the written meanings are for anything, because I've spent time developing my own meanings with my cards. So whether you're doing a 3-card spread for a timeline, which was the request today for a video, or you're doing a 10-card spread with a timeline, it's not about the spread and the timeline. It's about knowing your deck and spending time with your deck, and no one else can do that for you. You know, I can't give you a, if you draw this, this, and this, the timeline's 6 months. If you draw this, this, and this, the timeline's 10 months. You have to trust your intuition at some point, and you have to have your own associations with your cards for that. And if you're using tarot, then that means you have 78 cards that you have to get to know at least a little bit before you start offering timelines for people. So I think that, you know, that's really the clearest that I can be about it. I don't think it's very complicated, and I think it's very easy to understand how to do it. So don't overcomplicate this when you're listening to me talking about how to read timelines for people, yourself included. It's about listening to the intuition and the psychic hits and paying attention to the first thing that you hear or see or smell or experience when someone asks a question and you feel that it is that it's right for you to take a look at a timeline for them. Has to be about that first intuition. Anytime we get out of the intuition space and into the thinking space and we're trying to qualify or quantify our response, we lose the intuition and we've lost the power of any type of hit that we're getting for that person. So it really does need to be about honing your craft and then trusting your psychic and intuitive abilities and listening to that. So when you hone your craft, you have associations for your cards, and so you understand when this card shows up over and over again. And as an example of honing your craft with that, let's say you draw the 8 of Cups like 6 times over the course of a few weeks, and every time you draw the 8 of Cups, it's like, wow, the same thing happens, the same experience happens. That's a message for you that the 8 of Cups means that for you. So I couldn't tell you that the 8 of Cups means that for you because I'm not you drawing that card over and over again. You are you drawing that card. So that's really what the focus needs to be in reading timelines. You have to have your own associations, and then you have to just trust your psychic hits and intuition and your psychic abilities, and we all have them. So it's just about the journey of getting to know them, using them more, using those tools more and more and more, and just trusting it. Don't second guess anything that you get as far as that goes. So I hope that this has given everyone some insight who's looking at being able to judge timelines for people in their readings. And I know this probably hasn't been the video response a lot of you were hoping for from me, you know, but it is exactly how I do it, and it's how I think we can all effectively do timelines for people when it is right for us to do them. So until the next video, guys, many blessings. Thank you for the viewer requests. Please keep them coming. Thank you to the viewer who requested this for me to do today and reminded me that, like, I've had 70 requests for this and I keep forgetting to do this video. So thank you so much for that. Much love to you all. Many blessings. See you in the next video.